you're gonna have Jell-O right now. And I was like, Jell-O? Like right now? I was like, I want my double-double. It didn't really cross my mind that I could possibly have breast cancer. And I put, I have cancer, LOL. that was the first time I pulled the cancer card, I guess. Having him to cope with how difficult it was and how hard it was, and having someone that really just understood. Ooh, thank you. It really just like someone who just like understands.
Wasn't a big decision. It's all right. This is what life is throwing at us. Let's do it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Survivor Stories, the uncensored truth on cancer. My guest today has flown in all the way from California to speak with us. Her name is Samantha. She is an avid yogi, MBA grad, and a triple-negative breast cancer survivor. Samantha, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you joining us here in cloudy, gray Chicago this weekend.
Yes, no, I'm so happy to be here. I love that the weather is different from sunny California, and
you really want a break from that?
Yes, I really do. It's it's funny because I really love like the sunshine, but every now and then I really want to be able to break out some winter clothes, wear a long
and
sleeve.
Be cozy,
yeah, and be cozy,
and cuddle up and watch some Netflix.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like I really get that here.
So if you don't mind telling us, what was life before the diagnosis? You were getting your MBA, right? You were 23?
Yes, yeah.
Oh my God. Tell us about that experience and what you were doing before, the world turned upside down for you.
Yeah, I had just turned 23. I was diagnosed, or I found my lump, in November. So I turned 23 in October, and I had just finished my MBA, and I was ready to get out there and get my first big girl job, and start the job search and really be in a place of this is my time to be more independent and to do all the things that I would imagine someone in their early 20s would do. And life before then was truly just a lot of work full-time, school full-time, a lot of back-to-back of those two things, and then mixing in a social life. And I think that's something that getting diagnosed really helped me learn, was finding a better work-life balance and to stop putting things off. I feel like I had a list of things I wanted to do, or a little a bucket list in a way of things I'll do it when I have the time, or when I'll do that later. It's not a big deal. But I feel like with my diagnosis and going through treatment and all that really taught me no, the time is now. Now I should
Life
be
is
present.
short.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yes.
You might as well just do it while you can.
Yes, exactly. Which is why I was I'm totally going to just come out, fly to Chicago on a whim, because why not?
And it's a good place to visit for a little bit. Have you ever been to the city?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Well, a pretty monumental first trip to do everything. I would love to hear you talk about what it was like getting diagnosed, what that whole process was when you felt that lump. What was your first reaction, and how did you go about that?
Yeah. When I found my lump, I was actually in the middle of getting ready, and it just kind of was really random, and I just felt a golf-sized ball in my boob, and I had asked my partner. I was like, "Hey, is it just me, or are you feeling this too?" And he double-checked it for me and was like, "Yeah, that's a lump." And at first, I actually didn't think too much of it. My mom had dense breasts, and so she actually had a non-cancerous lump too. So I already knew that was in our medical history, so I just figured the same thing of oh yeah, this is probably just that thing that my mom was talking about. It's probably no big deal. I'll just call up my doctor and schedule an appointment to have them check it out, and it'll probably be fine. I'll probably just leave it in, or if I want to remove it, I can remove it. Because my mom had already told me about that when I was going through puberty of okay, I have dense breasts, so if you feel anything weird, it's probably that. So it didn't really cross my mind that I could possibly have breast cancer. And it wasn't until I think the day before my appointment that I was having this thought that just crossed my mind really quickly of, what if it is cancer? And ironically enough, 6 months before I got diagnosed, I had just gotten off birth control, and I remember I was cleaning out my drawer of all my birth control and throwing everything away, and I remember just skimming the side effects paper, and
which is a giant paper.
Yes, yeah, I was just skimming it, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to my partner, and I was like, it's the breast cancer for me. Like I had like just very
It's just listed on there.
yes, yeah, just like
Love
that.
that.
And I thought it was so funny because I think about it all the time now. I'm like, I wonder if like subconsciously I was almost like my body was almost like telling me like to get off it, or like that something wasn't right. Because even leading up to my diagnosis and finding the lump, I was experiencing a lot of things I didn't normally experience. Like I had like really bad like cystic acne, and I had never like had really bad acne before. And I feel like my diet and my health just wasn't really in the right place either. And I feel like also like mentally, I didn't feel very like in tune or connected with my body. And so I feel like those were all signs for me of like something is wrong. And I feel like that's what made me also like start being more aware of my physical body, and that's what helped me find the lump and find it when I did.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like if I had found it months later, it probably would have been even worse.
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. It was stage 3B. I don't remember like the exact measurements of it, but yeah, it felt like a golf ball.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember that we did like an ultrasound in my underarms too. And we did a biopsy on that as well too. And it kept coming back like inconclusive. So they couldn't, yeah. So I was like, they're like, it could be cancer, but also could not be cancer. We don't know. We
The
can't
lymph
tell.
nodes?
Yeah,
or
the lymph
lump?
nodes.
Okay.
Yeah. The lymph nodes, they weren't sure because they were trying to decide if it had spread there or not. And so the whole time I'm going through treatment, they're just like, yeah, we don't know if it is cancer or not in the lymph nodes. But the breast tumor was for sure cancer. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then you had chemotherapy, right?
Yes.
How was that whole process for you?
Yeah, so I was on an immunotherapy and a chemotherapy. So my chemo was made up of like the generic ones that they put you on when you have triple negative. Can't remember all of them, but the one I always remember is the AC, or the Red Devil as they call it.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that like it was, I don't know, I feel like I sugarcoat it a lot for myself. And I like tell people like, yeah, it wasn't too bad, but at the same time, it also really sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like you're looking back in like a haze?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of the times I feel like I was on autopilot. It was just kind of like go, go, go. Like once I was diagnosed, I was just kind of like, okay, like what's next? And just kind of doing whatever the doctors told me to. But in a way, I see that as a blessing. But let me just get through one thought. I'm like, million thoughts in my head.
That's okay.
So for starters, I had a HMO insurance, and I actually ended up switching over to a PPO. But that process alone was really difficult and really hard.
It's a nightmare. Yeah.
I was not expecting it to be that way. I felt like I was Googling everything on my own and waiting on the phone all the time, picking up calls randomly throughout the day. Like it was just a constant guessing game. And it took me, I think, 3 months to finally like get settled into a PPO and actually get real treatment. While I was on my HMO, it was a lot harder because since I got diagnosed mid-November, it was literally right before Thanksgiving. And so my first appointment had to be right after Thanksgiving, and then I didn't get to see an oncologist until January. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this was all through my HMO, and like, of course, insurance at the time was not even approving my appointments because they're like, there's no way you have cancer, and like
You're too young.
Even
There's no
though
family history.
Yeah, even though literally in the paperwork that the doctors are faxing over says that I got diagnosed and that
Cancer.
Yes. Like, and they're still saying no. So like, imagine just calling the insurance company being like, hey, so you guys are denying my first initial visit to the oncologist because you're saying that I don't actually have cancer, but I'm pretty sure you got the paperwork and it says point blank, I have cancer.
Right.
So yeah, 3 months of just back and forth. And the like most traumatic thing for me that kind of like shifted that change for me was when I showed up to the oncologist to meet them for the first time, and I had to wait in the waiting room for over 2 hours.
Oh my God.
And then once I was in the room, I had to wait like another hour and 30 minutes before the oncologist finally saw me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They were just running that late, or they just can't manage their time. That's so stressful.
Yeah, so like whatever it was, I sat there for hours, and I didn't go alone. I went with my sister and my mom and my partner. So it was all four of us expecting to not be there for more than an hour, and it ended up being over like 4 hours that we were there. And I remember asking about treatment. I was like, okay, like when I start chemo, like can I have someone in the infusion room with me? And they were like, no, you have to come by yourself. You have to be dropped off. I guess they were really strict at this location.
Was this?
This was post-COVID.
This was post-COVID.
Yes, this was
okay. Weird.
in 2020, like just 2023 had just started.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, like I understand, but also like to imagining being by myself and not having some like a comfort person there, and you know, not that nurses aren't warm and great.
No, but they're
just
busy.
Like,
they're doing stuff.
yeah, like I can't expect them to be there for me the entire time
Right.
that I'm getting my infusion done. And like even just the thought of being in a like hospital setting by myself is just very like cold and sterile.
It's stressful.
Yeah, so that was kind of like the last straw for me of like, okay, I can't like continue to wait the 3 months I've already waited to just see an oncologist. I haven't even made my appointments yet, and like not having everything set in stone and having to always call insurance. I cannot do that while I'm in the middle of a treatment. I just knew I couldn't. So I fast forward, I was like trying to like Google a bunch of different options or different ways. I was like, what if I just get my own insurance? Or like, how can I change my dad's insurance? Because I'm young enough to still be on my dad's insurance. And we just kind of like made a call to his HR and just kind of told them like, hey, that was the first time I pulled the cancer card, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Hey,
Just
that's
like,
completely valid to fight for insurance.
Yeah.
Like, hey, cancer, better insurance, please.
yes, yeah. And so the HR person was really understanding and got me on a PPO, and that helped me a lot. I knew I wanted to go to City of Hope as my hospital. They're considered like one of the best top hospitals, I think, in the nation.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
cancer care. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't want to experience what I have already experienced. I just want to be somewhere where like I don't have to stress or worry about this so much.
During this entire thing with your insurance, with switching hospitals, did you feel like you were just like like a pinball, just like being bounced around everywhere, like not knowing, just following
Yes.
and not knowing what was happening?
Yeah, definitely early on. Like before City of Hope, I felt a lot more lost and a lot more of like that pinball that you're describing, because I just felt like I was bouncing doctor to doctor, approval to approval, like denial to denial. Like it was just, there was no layout. There was no like path.
Do this, then do that,
Yeah.
then do that.
It was
then do
just,
that.
here you go, figure it out. And
Read the results online.
yeah.
We'll call you, I don't know, 3 days after.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, I already doom scrolled on Google. I already have read all these terrible things. It's like, what are you going to tell me now that I don't already know?
Yep. Yeah. But
That's rough.
it was really rough. It sucked a lot, but I don't know. I feel like if I had to like, actually, this is like coming to me really randomly, but there was this other like really bad experience with the HMO that made me again decide, yeah, I can't do this. Like I have to go to City of Hope. Was when I went to I was going to get my port installed, and the surgeon there like completely dismissed the fact that I had cancer, even though the results were faxed to him. He was like, no, there's no way that you have cancer. He's like, why are you here today? And I was like, oh, I need to get my port installed because I'm going to start chemo like in 2-3 weeks, but I need to get my port installed. And he was like, there's no way you have cancer. You're too young. Like, and I was like, but the doctor sent the report over. Like, I'm here on a referral from the surgeon and from my oncologist, like, to get my port put in place with you.
Right.
And I remember him just being like, no, like, there's no way. Like, it came down to basically where he was like, I'm not going to accept this as a truth until I see for myself that you actually have a lump on your breast. And at that moment, I almost, like, wanted to, like, run like out the door.
Yeah, what the heck?
I was almost like, okay, I have two choices here. I can either like sit here and like just let him like prove to himself.
A breast exam.
Yeah, do a breast exam on me, like,
Which,
that
like,
I wasn't
what?
expecting.
What?
Yeah.
That does not,
Yeah.
he doesn't need to do that. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Or I can just like walk out the door. And I kind of froze and I sat there. This was the one and only appointment that I ever been to myself. And obviously, after this appointment, I have not gone to one by myself since then. But I sat there, kind of froze, and like the nurse and I kind of like made like a side eye at each other.
There was somebody else in the room when he was saying that?
Yes.
Oh my God. Dude, I would take him
it was a
aside and be
woman
like, Doc,
nurse.
what are you doing?
Yeah. And I think like that's kind of like what she was trying to do with him.
Just staring at him.
Yeah,
what
just
what are you doing?
Yeah. And I'm sure I like remember they had walked out so that I would have some privacy to change into the gown. And I remember like she was like, it's like right here, like I have like the paperwork that was sent in, like this is the report. And like he just kept saying like, no, like I need to see this for myself. And I don't know. I like went into like I had looked him up on Yelp, right? Like I looked up all of my
like,
HMO
rate
doctors.
my doc
Yes,
thing.
yeah. Like and like all the reviews were like 1.5, but I was like I can't do anything about it because HMO. Like I have no choice.
Who they gave me to.
Yeah.
That's
I was like, what
who
can
I
I
have
do?
to see. Oh my God.
Yeah. So he did the breast exam and was like, oh yeah, you totally have this lump. I'm like, well, yeah, no shit. Like,
why do you think
that's why I'm here?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not doing this for fun.
Yeah, like because I totally want to have this.
Yes, a giant port here.
That's gonna like be a scar for the rest.
That's gonna be the best accessory ever for this summer. Like, I'm so excited.
Exactly, right? So after that, I was just like, well, I don't want to go back to him, and I don't want to keep having experiences like this. And less of that pinball feeling once I switched over to the PPO and once I started going to City of Hope. Like, truly, like, I'm so glad that I did that for myself because it made everything so much easier. Like, the fact that I had a patient portal where I could access all of my doctors and I could message all of them. And, like, there was even, like, a one number I could call if I had any, like, questions where, like, a nurse would pick up and, like, answer anything for me on the spot. And even just, like, being able to have all of my appointments mapped out for my entire treatment. I feel like that was the smartest thing I did for myself then, was I went through the 3 months of hell with the HMO and all the insurance phone calls to then finally, like, get lucky, in a sense, throughout the whole thing.
There's always a little bit of luck involved.
Yeah. So I feel like that caused less of the pinball thing to happen. And that's why I kind of always say, like, yeah, I feel like I was on autopilot because everything was planned out and mapped for me once I got to City of Hope. Like, I didn't have to think twice. I didn't have to second guess, or there was no hesitation. I was just like, yes, the doctor would explain to me what's happening, would explain to me what I'm going to go through next. And if I had any questions, they would answer them. But most of the time I didn't have questions because I felt like they over-explained and provided me with so much information that I felt confident going into every appointment. And that is something that I really hope and wish that every doctor had. And I know that's not the case. And I know that's not the case in every state too. And he said every city. Like, it's just not the norm. And I wish that it was, because I feel like everyone is so deserving of that, especially if you have some sort of chronic illness or diagnosis like cancer.
Yeah. Did you get those comments of, oh, but you're so young when you were at City of Hope, or were they better about that?
They were better about that. I think I got it every now and then from a nurse, but I think it was more so just like, it's shocking for them too.
Right.
Especially when like the
nurse treating you was older and they're like, oh my God.
Yes. And I'm not in the, peds department.
Right.
I'm in like the
adult side.
Yeah, the adult side. Yeah. So like for them and for myself to even just like see the rotation of other patients coming in, and obviously like they don't look like me, I'm like, yeah, I get it. But I feel like when they said it, it wasn't like with like a pittiness. It was more so like, damn, you're young. Like this sucks for you, but happy that you're here, happy that you're getting treatment here, and happy that you get to like get treated.
It taken care of.
Yeah.
Get it done out over, out of the way early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally day one of me seeing my surgeon at City of Hope, they provided me with a binder of like literally any and all information I could ever need for my specific type of cancer. And then on top of that, explained all the different treatment plans to me and what was available, which was a total 180 because the surgeon I saw at the HMO, they had told me no nipple sparing, have to remove both breasts. That's the only option. Like, she was like, lumpectomy is out of the picture for you. This is your only option because you're young and this is an aggressive type of breast cancer. And so that was really hard for me because I was like, I thought I would at least get some options and like to think it through. I mean, I was kind of already leaning towards removing both my breasts, but at the same time, I'm like, at least give me like the option.
Tell me I can make that choice. Don't make that choice for me.
Yeah. And so that was a complete 180 because the City of Hope surgeon, she was like, yeah, these are all your options. You can go with this route and here's your percentage of reoccurrence. You can go with this route and here's your percentage of reoccurrence. Like she laid it all out.
Did you weigh those options about reoccurrence risk in your decision?
Yes, I did. And I think I did a lot more because everyone kept emphasizing how young I was. And I think a lot of other survivors or even people that are newly diagnosed that are young can relate to this when I say that every time I went into an office, they're always like, oh, you're so young. And they do like a little like head tilt and like the voice and everything. And like, yes, I get it. But man, after a while, it's just...
Right. It gets really old.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, I'm young, but I'm here doing this.
Yeah.
And making adult decisions about my life and what my future looks like.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So treat me with that respect.
Yes. Yeah. So I feel like it got old really fast, as you said. But in the end, I did think about that a lot of like, just what's my quality of life going to look like? What are my follow-ups going to look like? How often will I get scans? How often will I have to come in, post this? So that was how I made my decision. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
During chemo, now I remember you saying that you froze your eggs, right? How was that whole process for you? Because, yeah, you are young. Who knows if, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm 27 and I'm like, kids? In this world and with this much money?
Yes.
I'm like, what?
In this economy?
But I don't want that option taken away from me at the same time.
Yeah.
So how was that whole process for you and your boyfriend at the time? So how was that whole decision?
I knew that I wanted to because kind of like how you said, like I really just wanted to have the choice. Like even if I decide in the end that kids are not in the cards for me or like that I don't want to have a family and I just want it to be me and my partner, cool. But yeah, to have the option and to know that there's a choice is so important. And at first I thought, okay, yeah, like this whole IVF thing will be like a piece of cake. It shouldn't be that hard. But one, it's not covered by insurance. So it's all out of pocket, even if you have cancer. Because I remember like reading a couple things on the internet of like, yeah, sometimes they'll approve it. Sometimes they won't. Yeah, they don't. In fact, they probably never do.
Oh my God.
They do have a lot of like grants though that you can apply for if you have a cancer diagnosis, and the place I went to had like a discount for people with cancer too, so that was really nice. But yeah, I feel like it's like made out to be this really easy breezy thing of like, if you want to make a quick buck, like donate your eggs. But it's actually really hard.
Easy. You have to do the shots, right? And then you have to go in for scans too.
Yeah, ultrasounds. And yeah, the shots. I'm not bad with needles. Like I have lots of tattoos. I love needles. But there was this one shot. I think it was the one that stimulates your ovaries. That one, I had to like freeze my stomach like with ice packs, like numb it out before I would get that shot because it literally felt like it was like burning the inside of your skin. And it was the most like painful thing I've ever experienced. And I feel like I have a high pain tolerance.
Yeah, you've got quite a few tattoos. How many times were you taking that shot?
Every day. I think it was, every day.
Oh my God.
For a week and a half, something like that. Yeah. And the IVF process takes about a month, I believe it was. Yeah, so you start with like the first set of shots and then you change to the second set. And that was the one where I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. Like, I can't believe people do this more than once, like willingly. Like, this is crazy. Either for starting a family or for the money. Like, oh my gosh, like that was so hard. I wouldn't wish that experience upon my worst enemy. Like, that's how strongly I feel about it. Oh, yeah. And then like on top of that, there's this thing you can get. I think it's called like OHSS, over hyperstimulation syndrome. Yes, I think that's what it is. And they like give you like a list of like foods you should eat and like how your diet should be and like things you should avoid to help with the fertility process. And I remember doing all those things and I was like, okay, cool. Like I shouldn't like get OHSS. I should be pretty good. I should be in the clear. And like post the removal of my eggs, or the retrieval of my eggs, I mean, I think it was 2 days post that surgery. The third day, I actually did end up getting OHSS symptoms. Like, I had really randomly, I was just like resting in bed. I all of a sudden was dripping in sweat, like dripping in sweat. Like I could literally see the beads of water like drop off my face. It was so gross. And then I threw up twice, like back to back. After I thought I finished throwing up the first time. And I was like, this is so scary. Called up the doctor, said like, hey, is this normal? And they were like, no, but just take some pain meds, see if you throw up again. If you do, go to the ER. If not, you should be good for the rest of the day. Yeah, so I don't think I would recommend that to anyone unless you really had to. I feel really fortunate and blessed that I was even able to afford it. I decided once I got diagnosed and once I found out that chemo could potentially impact my fertility, to share it with everyone, like on social media. And I started a GoFundMe, and that was a big part of how I raised enough money to get my eggs frozen. And I think I am really grateful for my friends and my community that showed up for me. And it was really such like a wonderful act of kindness. I'm getting like emotional thinking about
okay.
it.
I'm like, do we have tissues? Only in America are we raising a GoFundMe to go through cancer treatment.
Seriously, yeah.
Oh, great.
But it really, I feel like, gave me
But the
support I
retrieval was
needed.
successful.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They're sitting in a bank somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I was able to retrieve 20 eggs.
Yeah.
I think they retrieved more, but they were only able to freeze 20.
Okay.
And I think originally the doctor had said if I had more time, they would have wanted me to do another round. But since I was already at stage 3B and needed to start chemo ASAP, and it had already been 3 months after getting diagnosed, they were like, yeah, we unfortunately can't make you do that, and we probably should advise against it. So yeah, I have 20 frozen eggs in a bank somewhere that hopefully I can use. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. And then during chemo, did you do any of like the cold cap stuff or things for like neuropathy? Did you have any of those symptoms?
Yes. So I did not do cold capping because one, it's expensive as well and not covered by insurance.
Really?
Yeah, at least not
Not by your insurance.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know some do, but I think some you still have to pay like a good out of pocket to once you meet your deductible type of thing. But I had actually had really long hair.
Like how long are we talking?
Like to my hips.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I had really long hair, but I actually, literally a month before I got diagnosed, I wanted to chop all my hair off. And I do this every now and then, right? So
I do the same thing. I grow it for like 4 years, and then I chop it into a bob, and then I grow it for another 4 years.
Yes, exactly.
And then whenever I go to the hairdresser, they're like, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I do it all the time.
Yes.
Like, it's fine. Just cut it.
Yes. So that's exactly what I did. But I actually went to a pixie cut.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
so like I normally do like, the shoulder length thing. But yeah, I was like, let's do a pixie. Like I'm only this young once. And I feel like you can try like more out there things when you're younger than when you're older.
I remember my mom telling me, she's like, yeah, when you get to be my age, you can't like cut your hair that short anymore. So like my mom and dad were always so pissed when I would chop my hair. They're like, no, don't you?
Yeah, no, totally. I can relate to that. I think my aunt was my hairstylist, and she's like, are you sure? She's like, you look so beautiful with long hair. Are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yes, do it. So we did the pixie cut, and then that was like one of the first things I thought after getting diagnosed too, was like, oh, like this will be fine, because like I'm already was mentally prepared to have short hair. And the pixie cut was actually like my way of transitioning to a buzz cut, because that was actually what I originally wanted to try.
Okay, yeah.
And my aunt was like, let's slowly transition you there so you're not like
change.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. Like now I really get to experience the buzz cut. And this is definitely not going to be relatable to everyone, but I was a lot more excited to lose my hair, because I was like, oh my God, I finally get to have my Britney Spears moment. Yes. Yeah. Just like shaving it bald. Yeah. So I was really excited to see like what I would look like bald. I think it was more so the circumstances of how and why. But I got really lucky there, because I was already mentally prepared to get to that point, because I was already planning on a buzz cut. So having to go through chemo and losing my hair was kind of just a push, I guess.
Yeah, an unfortunate push, but a push.
So no cold capping, was cool with losing my hair, and I actually didn't mind being bald. I think I was bald for most of summer, So it was perfect.
That's pretty good time. Did you have to put sunscreen on the top of your head?
I did. Yeah, I did like a spray,
Yeah.
a sunscreen spray, because I felt like the cream was just kind of like sweating off over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember like wondering how like bald men do it, and then I started to wonder, do they even put sunscreen on their head? Because I'm like, we could.
No, they wear a hat.
Yeah,
they wear a hat and call it a day, and then they get the funny little hat tan line in the back.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm probably doing more than they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was how hair treatment was. You asked the second part to that question. I already forgot.
Yes. Did you do anything for like neuropathy? Did you have any like pins and needles tingling from the treatments?
Yes. So right when I started chemo, my oncologist had recommended buying neuropathy gloves and socks. So I went on Amazon. And
Are they just like fuzzy socks or like
they're
warm?
like the hand ones can be described as like an oven mitt.
Okay.
And then like it had like a pocket where you could put the ice pack into it. And then same with this, like they were just like regular like socks, but they had like a little pocket you stick it in. They were not fuzzy, so they were just like kind of like bare like tights, or like leggings. But I think for the socks, I think I remember I tried to wear fuzzy socks inside of them every now and then because it was so cold. But I also knew if I did that, it wasn't gonna do
as effective.
Yeah, so I tried to brace through it as much as I could. I would freeze the ice packs the night before in like the meat freezer because it was like the coldest.
Super cold one.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I'd pack a cooler in the morning with the ice packs and like the gloves themselves and the socks and take them with me. And then the nurse would tell me like 15 minutes before we started the infusion that required them. They would give me a heads up so that I could put them on and start to freeze my hands before the infusion started for that. And I feel like it really did help.
Good.
Like, I didn't experience too much neuropathy, if any at all. And I feel like even now, I don't experience it at all. And I've heard from other women that didn't freeze that like they still experience a lot of neuropathy. So now I tell everyone about it. That they should, and that like it actually does work. And I'm so thankful that my oncologist even recommended it. And I remember one of like my last infusions for immunotherapy, because that one goes on longer than chemo. I had overheard a woman in one of the other chairs experiencing neuropathy, and I had been holding on to my gloves and my socks forever because I was like, I don't want to throw these away because they could help someone else. I just don't know who to give them to.
Yeah.
And so hearing her say that, I was like, oh, would it be weird if after I leave, I like go to my trunk, grab them, and then just kind of be like, I'm so sorry for eavesdropping, but these are for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did exactly that. I just kind of came back and I was like, I totally overheard what was said, and I've been holding on to these, and I want to give them to you, and I hope that they help you. And I think of her all the time now. She actually like ended up inviting me over to her house. And like
you guys do like a survivors club kind of thing, or
no, definitely not. She's a lot older than me, but it was just like a sweet way of connecting. And like she like just like welcomed me with open arms, and I felt like that like was such a beautiful experience for me to be able to share what I knew, and for her to feel like she has someone that she could ask questions to.
Yeah, that's really hard to find this stuff out online because I mean, like you Google and you're just doom scrolling.
Yeah.
That's really difficult.
Yeah.
How was the hair regrowth after shaving it and losing it?
It wasn't too bad. It actually was a little patchy at first. So I had a barber. I had a barber during this time. And I remember like even as like in betweens of the chemo, like I think each chemo is like 3 weeks. So in between the 2 weeks, it would kind of grow back a little bit. So I would go in and have him shave it down for me again. And when it grew back the first time, it was a little patchy, and I wanted to shave it all. And he was like, I just want you to know, like, it'll still probably grow back patchy. Like, it probably won't grow all at the same time. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I just want to try. And so he shaved it all down for me, and then it did grow back all in one go instead of patchy the second time around. So
did you get like those chemo curls afterwards?
I think I avoided that because I shaved it.
Gotcha.
I think had I not and like let it grow out patchy, I would have probably gotten the curls. But no, it grew back immediately straight. I think there was this weird thing that was going on. I don't know if like you can even see it or like if it's even still happening. But it was like kind of like frizzy, like, you know, like when you use a crimper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just think of like a extra small crimper like on the ends of your hair, and it was growing like that.
Have you cut it since the second shave?
Yes, yeah, I think I've gotten a trim twice. But then I'm kind of like at this like weird phase now where I'm like, I don't know
hate
if
that awkward.
Yeah.
I chopped it into a bob to like
Yes.
the chin, and then
Yeah.
that grow back phase where it's like just hitting your collarbones.
Yeah,
It's really annoying.
Yeah.
It's always like I'm like, "Ugh, do I cave and cut it again?
yeah,
Or do I live with it and let it grow out?
yeah.
So,
I've like had someone recommend that I shave the bottom, but then like when it grows back, you'll have like a weird
right. It won't
so
be
you can't win.
Yeah, there is no winning in any of these situations. So you and your partner were dating before you were diagnosed, right? How was that dynamic during and after? And like, do you feel like there was any big change there?
Yeah. When I first found out, he was actually the first person I told.
Were you guys living together?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. But I had just come home from his house. It was like in the middle of the night. I don't remember what we were doing the day before, but it was in the middle of the night, and like I got a notification on my phone from the patient portal that says your report is in, and obviously I'm gonna look, and that was how I found out. Before my doctor even told me, I found out from reading that paper, and I took a screenshot of it, sent it to him, and I put, I have cancer, LOL. that was how I told him, and I made a couple dark, funny jokes. I think that's just kind of like what you do.
Morbid humor is
Yeah.
kind of the only way to get through these things. I hear.
Yeah. And one of the first things I told him in like our serious conversation face to face was, I won't fault you if you decide like this is too much. Like I won't fault you if you decide like this is where you walk away and like this is like that's our relationship. I won't fault you for that. Like, because I completely understand like this is a lot for me too. So I can only imagine how it feels for you. And I remember him looking at me and saying like, "Are you kidding me? Like, are you serious right now?" And so that was when I knew, okay, cool. I don't have to worry about that or him. He himself has already experienced cancer through one of his childhood best friends passing away from leukemia, and then his grandma had breast cancer twice. And so he was a complete angel. He was my rock. Like, I could not have gone through that without him. He definitely was there guiding me and helping me whenever I couldn't. I feel like, oh my gosh.
I know. I'm like, okay, it's okay.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the times, whenever I couldn't say something or speak something or explain something to the doctor, he was there advocating for me, showing up for me when I couldn't show up for myself. And even just like having him to cope with how difficult it was and how hard it was, and having someone that really just understood. Ooh, thank you. It really just like someone who just like understands what I'm feeling was really just
It makes
amazing.
all the difference in
Yeah.
the world to have somebody hold your hand and just be there with
Yeah,
you.
totally.
I always call it like sit in the suck with me, like just rot with me on the couch. Like I don't need you to say anything. I don't need you to do anything. I need ice water, a blanket, a TV show, and you sitting right next to me.
Yes.
That's the best comfort in the entire world.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you were able to have somebody there for you.
Yeah.
Were you, this hard pivot, were you working full time during all of this? Or were you like, this was post MBA, right? Were you job hunting and then you
Yeah.
get this news?
I was not job hunting. I was already working for a social justice marketing agency, but it was completely remote. So when I got diagnosed, I was like, oh, this will be fine. Like I can still work full time until like maybe halfway through treatment. Once like the AC starts, and like obviously I was like, okay, fatigue is for sure something I'm going to experience. So maybe I'll just go part time. But I think that has to do with a lot of my personality and the fact that I would say I am a workaholic. And I also mentally felt like if I can do anything for myself, it's like to still try to keep it as normal of a routine as possible. So I feel really good that I was a remote worker because I could still hop on and do a couple work things while going through cancer and still feeling some sort of sense of normalcy. And I think my boss was really great at the time. She was really flexible and understanding. And so like I didn't have like the normal like 9 to 5 hours. I was just kind of like, I don't feel good right now. I'm going to go off for a couple hours, and when I feel better, that may be at midnight, but I'll just get some work done then.
Right.
Whatever.
Hey, as long as I hit the due date, as long as it's done, nobody cares. I don't have to make it to these stand-up meetings, camera off, lying in bed. Like, we're not doing this.
Yeah. And it was really good that I worked where I worked and was doing what I was doing. So yes, I worked, I think majority of my treatment, I worked. I think the only time I took time off was after surgery. And originally I was like, yeah, I'll just take like 2 days off and I'll be chill, like it'll be fine. And then I remember my boss being like, no, you're taking the whole week off. If I even see you online, I'm blocking you. So I'm so glad that she did that. And I actually did need the whole week to recover. But yeah, I feel like overall it helped that I had something that like was required.
Keep your mind off of it.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think I would have doom scrolled a lot more and like scoured the internet a lot more and like been in a darker place had I not like had those things that were expecting me. Yeah.
Now you had kind of an experimental surgery, right? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I had robotic surgery. I had a double mastectomy, nipple sparing, robotic surgery. So my scars are actually like on the side here instead of in the front. And I remember my surgeon had just called me and was like, hey, like we have this clinical trial. If you're interested, I could tell you more about it, but it would change like what your surgery would look like. And when I think of robotic surgery, I always think of, I don't know if you're familiar with like the video of the grape.
Yeah.
It's like I always think of that. And like, I was like, I don't know anything about robotic surgery other than that grape surgery video. And I was just like, well, I guess it doesn't hurt to say yes and to sign myself up because the worst thing that can happen is they say no or like that I'm not eligible.
Right.
And I really love that she said that, you know, even if you get accepted, if you have any sense of hesitancy later, you can go ahead and say no, you can take this back. And I think that really gave me the push of just like, okay, what the heck? I have nothing to lose. And so that looked a little different in the sense of like, I had to fill out these questionnaires before every like surgical visit of like where my confidence is now, how I feel about my breasts, and like how I feel like with intimacy, like just like all these like random questions and like rating everything on a scale of like 1 to 10. And like my pain levels. And after that, they would have like discussions with me about, okay, like this is what we're thinking for the scar or the surgical placement. It should be like about 1 inch big. There shouldn't be any complications, but if there are, this is what we're looking at. So like they kind of gave me like a best case scenario of like, if everything works out and there's no things that come up, we're going to do the surgical cut, remove both your breasts, remove the tumor, and immediately place your implants and then close everything up.
Through that same incision?
Through the
did
same
they make
incision.
The little one underneath?
Same incision. All
on the same day, too. All same surgery.
Yes. Yeah.
Incredible.
And then they were like, worst case scenario, you have too much blood loss. We'll have to put expanders in and do the implants another day. I think we were originally projected to have a 6-hour surgery. And I think like an hour or two in, they ended up telling my partner and my parents that they should go home because they were waiting for me in the waiting room. And they were like, you guys should just go home. It's actually going to take longer. It ended up being a 12-hour surgery.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I was under for 12 hours with the tube in my throat and everything. I didn't know it was that long.
No, you go to sleep and then your eyes are open. And that's how surgery is. Yeah.
But all in all, it was really cool. And like, I try to tell everyone about it and give everyone the option. And I hope that in the future with this clinical trial that they implement a lot more breast surgeries that are done robotically, because I feel like with the placement of the scar, I almost like forget that I had the surgery because you can't even see it. Like when I wear a bathing suit, you can't see it either. And I feel like it really helped with the recovery because it was in a less invasive place.
You're not seeing it in the mirror all the time and being forced to look at it.
Yes, that too. That's a really great point. Totally did not, that went over my head. That's so true. I almost like don't even think twice about it. And then every time I hear other people tell their stories, especially like horror stories, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this sucks. And I'm just like, I wish more people like had this available to them. That was just the standard.
Yeah.
And I hope that one day it is, so that everyone else can get to experience that too, and get to have that same like happiness and satisfaction. Because I know that that's not the case for everyone with breast cancer. Sometimes people have to have multiple surgeries, and multiple times they're not happy with the end result. So I feel like really, really grateful that I was immediately happy with it and that it all went the way that it did. I feel very honored.
Yeah.
Even though it's like a weird way of looking at it.
No, there's always silver linings in these things. And I think that that's a wonderful silver lining. Now, did they do lymph nodes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, back to those lymph nodes.
Oh, those pesky little things.
The lymph nodes, they weren't sure because they were trying to decide if it had spread there or not. And so the whole time I'm going through treatment, they're just like, yeah, we don't know if it is cancer or not in the lymph nodes. Yes, so they did remove lymph nodes on both sides of my underarms. I think it was like 8 and 6, something like that. And we were able to find out that the reason why they were inconclusive was because there was tattoo ink in them.
Oh my God.
So I have like rib tattoos, and it does get pretty close to my underarm. So I was like, oh, as soon as they said that it was tattoo ink, everyone in the room was like, oh, yes. Yeah, totally. We were like, wow, how did none of us think of that? Like, especially because even when we were
see it.
Yeah.
Now, is the incision on your tattoo?
Yes.
Did they line it up pretty nicely?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, my surgeon did his very best. I remember even when he was making the lines, he's like, man, I'm going to do my very best. He's like, this is such a cool tattoo. Like, I really hope that I can get this right. And so, yeah, he did his best. It's like a little
crooked.
like this now. Yeah, but I'm like, I think I could actually have my artist fix it if I wanted to.
You could always touch that up.
But I might leave it because I feel like it's a nice memory of what I've been through and where I am now. Yeah.
Now, do you ever, now that when was the all clear?
The all clear was the day after surgery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were able to tell me immediately the next day, yeah, the lymph nodes were actually tattoo ink, and the breast tissue had no remaining cancer. I responded to chemo really well. So I had a scan done after chemo before surgery. And at that point, it looks like it's all good. You responded to chemo really well. The size of the mass is like almost no longer existent.
Amazing.
Yeah. So for me, the surgery was almost like a preventative measure. Like I think it was like slightly discussed of like, are you sure you still want to do a double mastectomy and remove and replace with implants? Or do you want to look at a different option now? And for me, I was like, again, because I'm young and for me to have a lower chance of recurrence, I will just go ahead and remove it completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the day. I considered that my cancerversary is the day after surgery. But I also celebrate the day I found my lump. I call it like a lump anniversary.
Okay.
And like that's a day like I just advocate for everyone I know to check their breasts, including men, because I know men can get breast cancer too.
It's rare, but it's like 1%.
Yeah. And hey, a percentage is a percentage.
Exactly, yeah.
And then I also have the day I finished treatment, which is, I guess, like the day most people celebrate, right? The day they ring the bell.
Did you ring the bell and do the whole thing?
So I actually did not.
No.
I know. I took a picture with it.
Were you like, oh, I don't want to disturb anybody?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. I'm like, I know it might not seem like it, but I'm actually like very shy. And so I was almost like embarrassed to ring the bell. And I remember they were in the middle of remodeling. So the bell had actually just got removed from the wall for this remodel. And so after that last immunotherapy infusion, I told my partner, I was like, okay, I'm not going to ring it. and like don't force me to, but I will like pick it up, take a picture of it like this, and I'll smile.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I have, is just a picture of me holding it. And I remember one of the nurses going, wait, we'll put it back on the wall so you can ring it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. Like, please, no, don't. I was like, this is enough for me. This is enough for me.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just like, this is enough. This is this good. So that was like my ringing of the bell.
Okay. That works. Did you have a picture with like your whole treatment team, your family there?
No, I actually don't. But that's because the way that City of Hope does it is that every time you go in for an infusion, they try to set you up with a different nurse.
Okay.
So that there's no like emotional attachments made. Yeah. So like once I learned that, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because it can become a very like emotionally bonded thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it helps the nurses a lot. Yeah. I didn't either. I was like, wow, like that makes a lot of sense. And because I'm like, this is hard work. Like the nurses do so much, and they have to, experience and see it. And like, that's a lot of trauma to, I feel like, every day to experience. Not even just for myself, but when I think of them, I'm like, they like kept things going for me. So yeah, I don't have any pictures with any of my nurses. But that does spark a good idea. I should totally do that with my oncologists and my surgeons.
Yeah. Are you set for like follow-up appointments with them?
Yes. Yeah. So with the clinical trial, I actually have like more follow-ups where like they'll want to survey and like continue asking those questionnaire things every 6 months, and then up to 5 years. And then they've aligned all of my like follow-ups with my oncologist and my surgeon with those dates as well too. So for the next 5 years, I have all of my scans set and all of my like questionnaire appointments made. But I don't think about it too much, if I'm being completely honest. I feel like because I'm young, it doesn't feel like it's my whole life. I feel like it's just like a chapter or two of my life, or like a small part of it. It makes up a part of who I am today, but it's not all of me. So I feel like because of that, it's almost like an afterthought.
Yeah.
But
Do you have days where you wake up in the morning and you're like, you forget that you had cancer? Are you at that point?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think it'd be really cool to get to that point one day. That'd be pretty sick. But no, I don't. As of right now, no, that hasn't happened yet. Now I'm gonna like think about that.
Don't think about it. It's like telling somebody to like, don't think of a polar bear, and then you're immediately thinking of a polar bear. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, it's totally fine. Yeah.
What was the best thing that helped you cope through all of this up and down and messing with insurance and the clinical trial and everything?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like this is kind of a cringe answer, but I did a lot of gaslighting, girl bossing, and gatekeeping.
Okay.
I think that's how the gatekeep, girl boss, gaslight. I don't know.
I'm not.
Okay.
I mean, I know the word, but like I don't I don't know the order.
Yeah, I don't know the order either, but I just know it's those three usually together, kind of like live, laugh, love.
Exactly.
So that was like my version of live, laugh, love. I just continued to gaslight myself throughout the entire thing. And I feel like that's really what kept me upbeat and positive, was like, this is fine. Everything is fine. Like, this is good. It can't get worse. Like, it's already like,
we're already here.
Yeah, we're already here. Like,
where are you going to throw at me next?
Exactly.
Try it. I dare you.
Yeah. So I feel like that is what really helped me, because I just gaslit myself into believing
in a positive way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're not. Yeah, no toxic positivity here. It was definitely in a positive way, because I definitely still had my moments of like, this sucks, and I'm gonna have a mental breakdown right now, and I'm gonna cry it out. I'll feel better after. So that's kind of just how I process. Was like, I feel shitty. This sucks. I'm gonna let myself feel that, but I'm not gonna let myself wallow for like maybe 3 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so once all the rotting's done, okay, now I gotta gaslight myself back into keeping the motivation and the going and just kind of sticking it through.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like crawl out of bed.
Yeah.
Take a nice hot everything shower.
Yes.
Put on some new clothes.
Yes.
Maybe get out of the house.
Do whatever I could. Yeah.
To feel like a normal person again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, during this time, were you living with your parents or were you living alone? Okay.
Yeah, I was living with my parents. I still am in this economy.
Right.
Yeah.
Expensive as heck.
Yeah. I live at home with my parents, my younger sister, and our dog Brady. I think I was also really lucky in that area because I had my parents to lean on, and my sister was studying to become an RN at the time. So I felt like that was really helpful because if I had any like question, I could be like, "You're studying this right now, right? Like you can help me with this,
Can
right?"
I take a look at your nursing book there? Let me just flip
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. So like even I remember when she was learning about chemo and cancer, I remember she like had texted me in the middle of class and was like, "I'm learning about what you're going through right now." And I was like, "That's cool."
Right. I'm living that.
Yeah, but it was nice to have her because she helped a lot with like all the gory stuff of like doing the needles for the IVF, draining my drains after surgery. She did all like the gross and gory things that my parents may be a little too queasy to do.
Yeah. How was the support from your family? Do you feel like this changed the dynamic with them?
I think a little bit. I think I had to learn a lot about like letting go of control and like feeling that I had to be independent in everything and like allowing my parents to help me with things that I maybe like the last time I got help on was when I was like too young to do it, right? I remember like when I was telling them that I got diagnosed, it was like a really awkward like couch conversation.
Yeah.
That was really hard for me. I think that was like the first time I actually like cried and like processed like, oh my gosh, like my entire life is about to change. And I mean, I don't know how, but my parents held it together. Maybe like they cried with the door closed and not in front of me, but they held it together for me. And I remember my dad saying like, "Well, this doesn't mean you're gonna die," right? And I was like, "Yeah, no, we don't think that that's gonna happen." And I think they really tried to be strong in front of me and not worry me anymore. And I feel like a lot of the times they were showing up for me in like their love language, which is a lot of like acts of service. And like culturally, like in Asian cultures, like usually your parents don't like say "I love you." They instead show it by like, you know, cutting a bowl of fruit and like giving it to you,
Right.
and or like asking if like you want something specific made for dinner. And so that happened a lot more often. But I think they also became more verbal of like expressing their love for me and me back. And there was this one time post-surgery where like this is I think like day 3 after getting my drains removed. I wanted a bowl of udon and I was just gonna like make it in the microwave because I was just like, I'm so tired, I just want to eat something warm. And I remember I was about to stick it in the microwave and my dad came down the stairs and he was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You shouldn't even be like reaching like that way right now." And he was like, "And you're really gonna eat like microwaved udon?" Like he's like, "You could have just asked me, I would have made it for you." And I like kind of like broke down crying because I was like, "Oh, I know, but I'm like so tired of like having to ask and be like waited on, and like I hate like inconveniencing you guys, and like I know that like that's what you guys are here for." But that moment I was just like, I couldn't anymore. And then he just kind of pulled me in for a hug and kind of like rubbed my back, soothed me down, and was like, "It's okay, like just sit down, like, and just let me make you this bowl of food." Yeah.
That's lovely. That's so nice that they were able to be there and support you and have your whole family there helping you out through all of this. I know this is absolutely not the same, but when I was a freshman in college, I was running, tripped, fell, completely sober. But I fractured my skull, had internal bleeding, concussion, and have permanently severed my olfactory nerves. So I've got no sense of smell, which helped me in my job as a nurse. That was cool. But it's the lifelong of, I'll never have that new car smell. I'll never know what my baby smells like, or candles. And I'm really paranoid when I bake now because I'm like, what if I light these cookies on fire? And like, I've got like extra smoke detectors in my house, and like unattended candles like freak me out. But anyway, freshman in college, right? You just gain your independence. And you're like, I'm having all this fun. I get to live on my own. Like, this is awesome. And then something like that happens. And I'm hospitalized for 3 days. Have to move back in with my parents. I lost 15 pounds because I couldn't hold any food down. And I don't have 15 pounds to lose. So I couldn't even stand. And my mother had to like carry me to the bath. And I'm like an 18-year-old girl. And my mother is like bathing me in the bath. And it's like, you lose that autonomy to yourself. And then afterwards, you're like, okay, well, literally anything can happen. So let's do that bucket list. Let's make those decisions. Let's chop our hair off and go for a random weekend trip because you never know what's going to happen. Do you feel like this whole incident has changed your outlook on life?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Like, there's no time like right now. Like, I know like they say like, oh, you're never as young as you are like today, right? But I feel like you have to even appreciate the moments, like all of them. Like the moment when the light turns from yellow to red too quickly and you're now stuck at a red light. You have to appreciate that moment. The moment when like you're waiting in a drive-through line and it's taking a lot longer than expected. You have to appreciate those moments. I feel like it has forced me to appreciate things I didn't normally appreciate in the past and to sit in the present. And to realize, like, as they say, you could die tomorrow. You never know. And
YOLO.
Yeah,
It's not a thing anymore, but like is very real.
Much still a thing. Yeah, no, totally. YOLO, exactly. Yeah, I actually think there was a couple of times throughout treatment that I was even saying that to myself. Of just like, I only live once. Like, if I don't do it, if I don't say it, if I don't, whatever it is, when am I going to?
Right. Yeah. Was there anything during your treatment that helped you? Any communities, any nonprofits, anything that you want to give a shout out to?
Yes, yeah. One community in particular, it's a nonprofit called Living Beauty Cancer Foundation. And what they do is they serve women with any kind of cancer, any stage, any type of diagnosis. You could be like 10 years remission or just got diagnosed. And what they do is they provide wellness retreats, overnight retreats and day retreats, as well as Zoom classes. And they're things like meditation, yoga, nutrition, just a lot of like holistic wellness that combined with, Western medicine and going through chemo and having all that, kind of like another resource where you can learn all these other things that you can do while you're in treatment or in survivorship. And I thought going to my first retreat, I was a little nervous because like, oh my gosh, I'm going somewhere by myself where I know nobody, where I've never even like...
It's like overnight sleepaway camp.
Yes.
You're like, I don't know what to expect.
Yes.
I don't even know if I'll make any friends.
Yes.
I'm just going to go.
Yes.
Like, do it. And if I have to sit by myself, that's fine. I'll sit by myself.
So I was fully ready to do that.
Yeah.
I was like, it'll be fine. But I'm so glad that I did. And they truly put me into a community with women that were already going through it, already understood where I was, and said the things to me that I needed to hear and showed up for me in ways that I didn't imagine I could get support in community. And although I was the youngest one there, all the other women were just like so great. They're like aunties and moms, right? And so for me to hear from them like, well, why are you tolerating that behavior from your aunt? Or like, well, why are you biting your tongue? Or like, why aren't you advocating for yourself in the doctor's room? Like, you should be doing those things. You should ask that question, or you should say that to your aunt who offended you. Like, you shouldn't hold back, because why? Why would you? You're already going through so much. And having, women say those things to me and also be there and be like, yeah, that does suck. And here's what I did to get through that. Or like, here are my suggestions, or here are other things that you could try. Having all that available and like in a face-to-face setting is so valuable and so important. And I hope that everyone can have access to something like that. But they would be the one organization that I would give props to.
Awesome. You felt like it was just women building you up.
Yes,
and
exactly.
giving you that support that you needed to literally support you as you're like, okay, I'm going to go fight this fight and say what I want to say.
Yeah.
And just put up those boundaries and those walls and uphold them and advocate for yourself, which is huge. Is there any advice that you would give to women? Is there any advice about advocating for yourself in these appointments that you want to say to the viewers?
Yeah, a couple of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. One would be, yes, advocate for yourself. Like, say it with your chest. Advocate for yourself, say it with your chest, and don't let your own hesitancy get in the way. And if you already feel like, okay, I probably can't do that, always have someone with you at your appointments then. And tell them beforehand anything that you're hoping to ask or say to the doctor. That way, if you're not saying it, that other person that you brought with you is saying it for you. That would be one. Two would be to feel everything that you feel and to know that everything that you feel or whatever you choose not to feel is absolutely valid. Like, if you decide you want to rot one day and just stay in bed all day and cry, that is perfectly valid. But if you also want to try to crawl out of bed and, go for a walk and feel joy, like, that's absolutely valid. If you're angry, that's valid. Every single emotion you choose and choose not to feel, I want you to know that that is perfectly valid and that you should feel however you want to feel. Because at the end of the day, you are the one that is fighting to survive, and it's your life. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Those would be the two things.
I love that. I think that is so important. Is there anything that you want to say to caregivers, to loved ones who are there with their cancer loved one, with their patient?
Yeah.
Any advice for them from the perspective of you?
Take the time that you need for yourself, because it's hard. Cancer sucks, not just for the person that's diagnosed, but for the caregiver too. And I feel like oftentimes you're probably going to hold and take in a lot, probably more than a normal person should. And with that, I think it's really important that you take the time for yourself. You can't fill the cup of others if you aren't full yourself. And so really, I think that's a big thing for me, is take the time for yourself, rest when you need to. When you think about asking the other person what they need, also remember to ask yourself that too. You can show up for the person with the diagnosis in multiple ways, whether it's being there to give them a sponge bath or being there to hold their hand through infusions. You don't have to show up in high capacity ways all the time. You can do something simple as even cooking them a warm meal or taking them out for coffee or tea, just driving them to an appointment. There are so many things that you can do that don't necessarily have to be big things that still show that you are there in support and love for the person. Sometimes it's easier to already have a decision made than to ask the person what they would like. I think I appreciated it a lot more when someone was just messaging me and saying, would you rather prefer I take you out for pizza tonight or spaghetti? Rather than, hey, do you want to go out to eat? And leaving me with the choice. I think that's also really helpful. It's just kind of deciding for us already so that it takes a load off of our shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know a lot of women go through divorce right after being diagnosed. I went to school to be a nurse, and that was one of the first things that they tell us of if a woman gets diagnosed with cancer, there's a 50% chance that her partner or her husband's going to divorce her and just go through it. I feel like it would be important to bring your partner in on this conversation. Did you want to go on camera?
Only if you
we'd
feel
love
up
to
to
hear
it.
from
Yeah.
your perspective
Yeah.
too. So we did a little switcheroo, and we brought Jared here on camera. Thanks for coming out to Chicago and joining us, and thank you for staying with Samantha through a diagnosis like that after only dating for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about what that decision was like for you, how you felt going through the whole caregiver side of it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too big of a decision for me. I mean, as she said earlier, I've dealt with cancer before in my life. My grandmother had breast cancer twice. My best friend from my childhood did pass away from leukemia while she was going through treatment.
Yes, actually, I totally forgot to mention that. So not only were you processing me getting diagnosed, you were also processing your own grief.
Yes.
Oh, at the same time.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my
I
God.
think I had just got diagnosed a month before he passed away.
Was it that soon? Wow.
It was either a month or like 2 months.
Wow.
It's all really hazy to me, but
Very hazy.
it was very close to home. Yeah, because I hadn't even started treatment yet. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But yeah, I guess part of that does help in the decision as well, because I do have that experience, and I've been around it before, unfortunately, and also fortunately, given the circumstance. So wasn't a big deal for me, wasn't a big decision. It's all right, this is what life is throwing at us. Let's do it. See how it goes.
Yeah. You were able to come with her to some of her infusion appointments, right?
Yes.
And did you stay at the hospital while she was recovering from surgery? And
Yes. Went to a lot of the infusions, even the 7-8 hour ones. Those were a lot of fun. But we made the most of it. She would sometimes do work. We would watch a movie, read a book. So we were able to make the best of what it was. The surgery, though, that one was long. That started at 8
in the morning?
8 in the morning, and they didn't finish until 2, I think, 2 in the morning the next day.
Oh my
Or
God.
1 in the morning. So at City of Hope is probably like a 45-minute or an hour drive for her and her folks, and it's maybe like 15-20 for me. So it was a lot easier for her parents to go home, I go home, and I'll just show up later in the day, which we thought would be 8 hours.
Right.
So
Done by like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. You'd
a little
see her
bit
again.
more. It was like 5 o'clock rolled around and the anxiety starts to set in. It's like, is this happening? Should I eat? When is this going to be? So thankfully her mom was getting updates through text. So we were able to stay on top of that. But yeah, about midnight, I think it was, rolled around, and they got a text that's like, okay, she should be done pretty soon. It was still a couple hours, but it wasn't bad. You're sitting in the hospital and there's like 2 other people there. So you're at least able to make conversation with them because you're all there for a pretty similar reason. So nice way to help pass the time a little bit. That wasn't too bad, I guess. I keep saying that, but I mean, in retrospective, it ended up okay. So
Right.
I guess I can say that.
Yeah. In the moment, though, did that...
Stressful.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I have anxiety as is. So going through that part as well of just like waiting to make sure that everything is good. Because I don't think you mentioned this, but radiation was on the table if there was still any sign of anything. So, we're hoping for it to just be totally smooth, everything gone, and then we can just go on to the next step. So a lot of anxiety, but she's finally done getting out. It's such a big relief. I mean, we waited a very long time to hear how it was going to be, and then hearing that it just went well, and then seeing her post-surgery still a little loopy was very fun.
Did she do anything funny?
Not really, actually, but one of the first things she said to me was she looked at me loopy and she's like, Jared, I want In-N-Out. I'm so hungry. I want In-N-Out. My lips are so dry. I want In-N-Out.
And then I recited my order.
Yeah, the whole order. Like, that's what I want.
Amazing.
So definitely makes
and
all
then
that
you're on
weight.
Uber Eats, like, okay, so getting In-N-Out.
It was a little too late, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
But
Next morning.
yeah, well, I don't think you were allowed to.
No, they were like,
they
we're
start
not
you
going to get
slow.
you. Yeah, we're like, you're going to have Jell-O right now. And I was like, Jell-O? Like, right now? I was like, I want my double-double.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically nothing but Jell-O and chapstick for the next 8 hours?
Yeah.
I don't know. We ended up leaving at afternoon the next day.
Okay. Wow. That quick after such a long surgery. That's actually amazing.
Yeah.
I would have thought that they would have kept you overnight for at least one more night, but
No, everything went so well that it was like, all right, like your vitals are fine. everything seems good. You should be good to go this afternoon. And
amazing.
Sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah. Did they ever tell you what delayed the surgery so long? What made it go so long?
I mean, I just kind of caught it up to like it's like the robot and like the technicalities of
it was
all.
the first one that they did at City of Hope.
Okay.
So that was the doctor's first experience,
I think so.
with it.
Yeah, or at least like in that
believe.
setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it was
for
done.
The breast.
Yeah, it was done before in a couple other states, but it was the first one that City of Hope did. So that's kind of what we're assuming.
That's a huge milestone. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, sometimes I get like some friends I've made along the way that also go to City of Hope. They would tell me like, you're famous.
Yeah,
like
literally.
my doctor talks about you, like obviously not mentioning my name or anything, but like saying like, yeah, we had a patient that did robotic surgery. I'm like, oh, it's so embarrassing, but so cool at the same time.
Were you also working full time during this, or
kind of?
How did you balance?
So I was working at restaurants. So in comparison to her family, who, both of her parents are in careers, and her sister is in the middle of nursing school towards the tail end of it. So it's just nonstop work. It gave me the opportunity, who was working minimum wage job, to be able to put more time aside for her. Because the reality is, if I lose my job for calling off or something,
you can find another one in a heartbeat.
No big deal.
Exactly.
So that was okay. So it started off with me working 2 jobs because, insurance, financials. It's like, okay, well, I can do my part, pick up a second job. Thankfully, it wasn't needed. So just working the one job. I left the first one just for the second one because the hours were just fit a little better with her treatments and everything. So the work aspect of it was okay for me. I got very lucky, was able to take the time off that I needed. It didn't cause any issues. All my leads and management were very sympathetic to everything that was happening. So I got very lucky with that.
Good. Having gone through this now 2 times, do you have any advice to caregivers specifically of like what worked, what didn't, what pissed her off? What did you not expect out of this whole experience?
The thing that really got to me, because I'm relatively familiar with the medical side of it, was the insurance side. That I like, just the shock of how difficult it can be was a lot for me. But just in terms of being a caregiver, was a lot of just kind of putting my head down, being positive when I need to be, but also not just overwhelmingly positive, because it's cancer and cancer sucks. And, being real with the individual, I think, helped with me. And also helped that, as she said, making dark jokes. I also have dark humor, so
I do too.
Yeah, it helped a lot throughout the process. Like you called Red Devil fruit punch.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, time for the drink. Let's get some fruit punch. Let's get some Kool-Aid and enjoy the next couple hours. I think that helped a lot. But in terms of myself, it was occasionally taking time that I need to, do something for myself. Definitely want to take care of yourself throughout this process, because I did fall into a little bit of a habit of enjoying food a little too much. So I didn't look like this before.
That's okay. My fiance also gained probably 30 pounds in the last year. But GLP-1s are over the counter and affordable. And now he's lost 20 pounds. And I'm
there you go.
In a month? I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was a little more than 30.
I might be underestimating how much weight he gained. But whatever. You got to cope somehow.
Yeah. So
you're young. You can shed it in an instant. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But that's
more to cuddle, more to love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Warmth.
Yes.
Like a personal furnace.
So what was the most shocking thing for you?
The diagnosis. That was because, she felt the lump. She asked me, is this what I think it is?
Was this here before? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was not. That's definitely a lump. That was a shock in itself. And, from my experiences, it was like, she was a little bit more positive on it, but I wasn't so much. Don't really think I showed you that, though.
No.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
was like, wow, you bit your tongue, and I didn't even clock it.
Yeah. Because no point bringing that up if you're not feeling that way. Because if it's not, I don't want to stress you out.
Doom and gloom, the whole thing. Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, the whole process, again, as she said, like once we got to City of Hope, it like the whole attitude, the whole vibe of the whole situation just totally flipped on its head. And it just, as she said, it was like autopilot. So many of the behind the things stuff took care of itself. And for us, it was just doing our part, which is making sure she's okay. And, her process, her symptoms, everything is being taken care of. And it just goes as smoothly for her as it can, which I think it did.
Good.
Yeah.
Has this diagnosis changed like the intimacy between you two and altered kind of what that looks like?
I think at first we were still trying to be intimate when I was going through chemo, but the Lupron made that really hard. Like the medical menopause and like I was just always dry down there and like nothing would help. Like nothing at all. Like we tried all the suggestions, all the like supplements, everything that they recommended.
Yeah, it didn't take us long to be like, yeah, we're not doing this.
Yeah,
it's not
worth it.
Not happening.
I was like, I'm in pain. This sucks. It's not fun for either of us. So yeah, we were just like, it's just not in the cards for us. We're just gonna wait. Yeah, yeah. And so it didn't bother us at all. I mean, I feel like it. I don't know. Maybe it brought us closer in a way because it's like if you can't be intimate sexually, like you have other ways you can be intimate through like communication, through like cuddling. Yeah, I feel like it didn't really bother us. At least it didn't bother me.
No, I mean, it is what it is. It's not like to fight it or anything. Like there's nothing we can do, and you accept what it is, and it'll come back eventually. But as she said, there's other ways to be intimate and to have that physical closeness. There's cuddling on the couch. Netflix or just holding hands. Like I mean,
the simple things. It brings you back
things
down to literally the silver linings of everything sucks, but I can at least find something good. Good.
Yeah. I think I'm really grateful that like that's just your character. Like that's just the type of person you are. Of like, you're not going to make me feel guilty or like bad because, people can be like that. But you were just fully like, like we don't have to do that. Like you didn't push me. You didn't make me feel like insecure or like not confident in myself because we couldn't be intimate. I feel like you're really good about that. It really shows your character of just making me feel comfortable that we can't be like that. We can't be intimate like that right now. Appreciate that. Yeah. So we definitely played the waiting game, the long game. Just like when it happens, it'll happen. Like when we're feeling more up to it and better. Like
I mean, it wasn't our choice. Can't blame either one of us. It's just what happened.
Yeah. Is there any advice that you have for caregivers going through this that you want to tell them, having gone through this firsthand?
I guess there are a couple different things. As she said, do take care of yourself. Caregivers are often an afterthought, which fair. I mean, we're not going through cancer, they are, but that doesn't mean that the cancer doesn't affect us and, everybody else around the person as well. So I would say do take care of yourself. There are not only support groups for people with cancer, but there's also support groups for co-vivors or caregivers, or even some of those cancer support groups will also have little sections and things for caregivers as well. I was lucky enough to go on a retreat with her in Florida well, which was a really nice thing to do. There was a little support group, I guess.
Yeah.
Where it was like, sit in a circle. Everybody talks about their experiences, not only on behalf of the person that they're there with, but also, as yourself, as the caregiver. So similar to what she was saying about her experience with support groups, it was kind of the same thing as a caregiver. So I do highly recommend, if you're not doing therapy or anything like that, I do highly recommend giving that a shot, because being around people who understand what you're going through can really make such a difference, because you can sometimes feel very isolated when you're going through something so traumatic like this. So I think having other people who know what it's like and can give you advice, or you can hear their story, I think made such a big difference.
Yeah. But what was the name of the group who did the retreat?
Young Survival Coalition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
I guess if I had to give like another piece of advice for someone who has a caregiver that's also their partner, something that I had to unlearn after like everything was said and done and I was considered Ned, was that I can't expect him to read my mind all the time anymore. There was this small period of time where I was like frustrated. I was often frustrated because I was like, you used to be able to read my mind like so well, and like now you're not. And I remember like I had to kind of check myself and ask myself like, well, why am I expecting him to wait on me all the time? Like, just because like we're past that now. Like I need to gain my independence back. I shouldn't still be depending on him in that way. So that's my extra piece of advice if you have a caregiver that's also your partner, is to make sure you're checking yourself and not constantly expecting them to just know it all and do it all, because that's not the case. And yeah, it was hard to unlearn that, but I'm glad that I caught it when I did. And I'm glad that you were patient with me and understanding and kind, so that I could reflect on myself and unlearn that behavior.
It's a lot easier to know what you want when there's like a set list of things that I can definitely do. Soup, you're hungry? Soup. We'll get that done. Oh, you haven't gotten out of bed? Let's go for a drive. Let's go do something. It's a lot easier. A little different outside of that when now you're able to do your own things. And yeah, it wasn't long.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, it was short-lived, thankfully.
Yeah.
The transition back into like personhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's weird.
Very weird.
Really weird. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole experience in and of itself.
Really weird.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really odd.
All right. Thank you so much for our two wonderful, amazing guests for flying all the way out here from California. All of the links to all of the nonprofits, support groups, City of Hope will all be listed down in the description below. And I really appreciate you joining us here in cloudy, gray Chicago.